As we're learning more and more, by the way, welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program, fair and only slightly unbalanced. As we're looking back at the indictment of this woman who was, via the NRA, inserting the Russians into the Republican Party, as we look at the attempts to, and it was successful, apparently, to, not even apparently, the successful attempt to hack into the Democratic Party and get all their content, then they got all this information on voters, and then there was the actual successful penetration of American voting systems around the country. And you got Trump's national security advisor saying our voting systems are at risk. Then comes this story from the Wall Street Journal. A fellow by the name of Jeff Tricoli, or maybe it's Tricoli, I'm guessing it's Tricoli. He's the guy he was a senior FBI official, and his job was to make sure, well, I'll just read it. This is, again, this is Joan McCarter. This is from today's Daily Kos is on a roll today. Lost in Monday's Surrender Summit comes the unsettling news from the Wall Street Journal that the senior FBI official who has been overseeing the task force charged with keeping Russia out of our elections has resigned. Jeff Tricoli is off to make more money as a senior vice president at Charles Schwab. He left in June, and nobody at the FBI is giving comment as to why. But as the Wall Street Journal says, it adds to questions among some tech companies and lawmakers about how much the administration and the task force in particular are doing to protect future elections from Russian meddling. And I would add, and we need to make this point over and over and over again, if the Russians can do it, so can any dweeb that the billionaires want to hire. So can China. So could Israel. So could Saudi Arabia. So could France. So could, you pick your country, right, that has a really, North Korea. All of these countries have advanced cyber capabilities. We're not talking Hungary here. Which takes us to another piece of news that was just published today over at Vice.com, their motherboard column. And this is by Kim Zetter. Kim Zetter had written a piece in the New York Times some time back in which ES&S, the largest supplier of voting machines and voting machine systems in the United States, said, oh, we don't put remote access software into our systems, and these are like the tabulator systems, the election eligibility rolls, the voter registration rolls, these summaries of who vote, how the vote happened, who won, who didn't win, basically the final vote total. Say, oh, we would not. Are you kidding? No. Well, in response to a letter from Ron Wyden, my senator from Oregon here, he sent this letter to ES&S back in April and said, did you guys put software in these things that allows anybody to access them? And they said, yes, we provided PC Anywhere remote connection software between 2000 and 2006. Now, PC Anywhere is a product from a company called Symantec. And, it's often used by system administrators, sysops, whatever's to get access, remote access to computers. In theory, nothing wrong with that, unless there is a problem with the software, which takes us to page 2, maybe paragraph 15 of the article. In 2006, the same period when ES&S says it was still installing PC Anywhere on election systems, and by the way, many of those systems are still in use, hackers stole the source code for PC Anywhere software, though the public didn't learn of this until later in 2012, 6 years later, when a hacker posted some of the source code online, forcing Symantec, the distributor of PC Anywhere, to admit that it had been stolen years earlier. When Symantec So now here we are, 6 years later, Symantec finally has to admit, yes, we put this software on these election computers. They took the unprecedented step. This is Symantec, not the vote counting people, the PC Anywhere people, right? The remote access to the computer software people. The ones who made the software that allows anybody who knows how to hack that software, anybody who has the source code, which had been available on the dark web since 2006. In 2012, when it finally hit the media, Symantec came out and said, well, I'll just read it again from the Medium article, or from the motherboard, the Vice.com article. When Symantec admitted to the theft in 2012, now this is the 2006 theft, when they admitted to this in 2012, it took the unprecedented step of warning users to disable or uninstall the software until it could make sure any security flaws in the software had been patched. Around the same time, security researchers discovered a critical vulnerability in PC Anywhere that would allow an attacker to seize control of a system that had the software installed on it without needing to authenticate themselves to the system with a password. So you could get into the voting computers, the tabulators. Keep in mind, earlier in the show, in the hour, I just read to you from an article that was published a week before the 2016 election, wondering out loud, why is Trump going to Michigan and Ohio and Wisconsin, excuse me? Was it to campaign or was it to make something look good, in my opinion? And asking out loud, why is he doing this when he's 7 points behind in both states? There's no way he's going to win. Why is he wasting his time there? Well, now we know that these voting systems, you didn't even need to figure out the password once you had this source code, which had been available since 2006 on the dark web. Around this time, and to make it even worse, around this time, security researchers discovered a critical vulnerability in PC Anywhere that would allow an attacker to seize control of a system that had the software installed on it without needing to authenticate themselves to the system with a password. And other researchers with the security firm Rapid7 scanned the internet for any computers that were online and had PC Anywhere installed on them and found nearly 150,000 were configured in a way that would allow direct access to them. They go on to describe this as non-trivial. Motherboard contacted two of the top vendors, Hard Civic and Dominion, to verify this, but neither responded. Professor Doug Jones, professor of computing science at the University of Iowa, longtime expert on voting machines, confirmed that other companies also routinely installed remote access software during that period of time. Certainly, he said, Diebold Election Systems did the same, and I'd assume the others did as well. In the case of Diebold, many of their contracts with customers included the requirement of a remote login port, allowing the company to have remote access to the customer system in order to allow customer support. Now, there's a whole bunch of twos here laying around the ground, and we seem to be adding them up. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, and at what point do we get to Donald Trump is sitting in the White House? Completely illegitimately. It's time for the Democratic Party to start raising hell about the fact that our elections have been privatized. What Thomas Paine referred to as the beating heart of American democracy, well, he called it the beating heart of our republic, is the vote. That vote has been privatized? I mean, it's a horrible thing, right? It's a crime against democracy. It's a crime against our republic to privatize something like education, which Betsy DeVos and the Republicans are, aggressively trying to do. It's a crime against, the idea of a functioning society to privatize something like water systems, power systems, septic systems, and yet that's being done all over the country too. But you can't even have a functioning democracy if you have privatized the beating heart of your democracy, the election systems. And now, not only were they privatized, but the private company that did it installed software that any hacker for 6 years, from 2006 to 2012, to how many elections was that the Republicans took? particularly the 2010 election, where they took enough state houses all over the country that they could completely gerrymander the entire United States to seize control of basically everything? They're within 2 states now of calling a constitutional convention to rewrite the Constitution. They're putting in federal judges like there's no tomorrow. How many of these things do we need to add up before, you know, the red lights, the alarms start flashing? Oh, that's right. That's what the President's National Security Advisor said. Dan Coates said day before yesterday, Director of National Security, about our election systems for the election that we are going to have in, what, 4 months, 5 months? And obviously, it's been that way for our election system since at least 2006, and maybe since 2002, when, you know, Congress decided to hand $5 billion to the states with the Help America Vote Act so that the states could buy these electronic voting machines from these private for-profit companies who were big donors to the Republicans who helped write the Help America Vote Act. And yeah, I get it. It was bipartisan legislation. In fact, it passed the Senate with something like 90 votes or more. I get that. But this was a huge mistake, privatizing our vote. And now apparently it's been hacked. This is incredible.